Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming in tonight. Pray that you all are doing well. Hey, AW. Hey, TR. Thank you for coming. Hey, Miss Sheila. Hey, Andreas de Salo. How are you? My prayer is that everyone is doing well. Of course, I just typically dive right in without so that we can get the most out of time. Hey, Coach, you're on time. Hey, Osa, hello. How are you? Hi, Jaden. Welcome back. Welcome back. So glad to have you um, back here with us. So today we're going to talk about grief. When should it begin, and when should it end? I don't have the answer. I find it funny that I bring forth all these topics with absolutely no answers whatsoever. But my goal was always for this channel to be a place, a safe place for the uncomfortable conversations that are necessary. And grief is one of them. Grief is something that we all face, that we all have faced in our lifetime. Sometimes we may not have realized that what we were facing was grief or categorized it as grief. Sorry, y'all. But we've all endured it one time or another. So today I thought how befitting for us to talk about grief, as we are a country who is grieving, not just the loss of lives, but kind of grieving the way things were. A world actually grieving the way things were, our idea of the way things would be, and so let's talk about it. What do we do with it? Where does it start? How does it end? I can tell you a couple of stories about myself. I was thinking about when did I first grieve, and I remember the first time that I actually grieved something. I was 12 years old, and my mom had a set of twins, and one was 1 pound, 5 ounces, and the other was 2 pounds. And I was excited because for 12 years, I'd truthfully been the only child between my parents, but I had other kids that lived in the house with me because we kind of lived with my grandparents. So it was like an only child, but not really an only child type of thing. And so I remember going to the hospital. I remember going to see him. I remember looking at both of them and them being so small. I remember calling my mom, telling her I didn't want to go to the funeral because my mom was still in the hospital. My dad had planned the funeral. And I remember being on the phone just saying, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Hi, TR. Thank you for coming in. Y'all, TR is so amazing. If you aren't following him, please go and follow TR. He is absolutely amazing. I remember calling my mom and telling my mom I don't want to go. I remember hearing my mom cry on the phone saying, you have to go. I can't be there. And I just was like, no, I don't want to, crying. My grandfather grabbed the phone and he told my mama not to worry about it, that I was going and that I would be there. Thank you so much, TR, for liking and sharing it. Thank you. And you guys, if you could do the same, please make sure you hit like, share. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. And so I was made to go. I was a tomboy. We talked about this before. So I had to put on a dress. I had this purple and white dress. I was able to pick the dress out myself. I had some little Bobby doll socks and some flat shoes. And my hair was long, but it was brushed into a ponytail because it was in the summer, but it had been straightened out. And the funeral car came to the home to pick us up. My dad went all the way out, even though my brother was just 2 days old when he passed away. My dad went all the way out. And we get in the car. And so myself and my grandparents, we get in the family car, head to the cemetery because it was just a graveside funeral. My father and his siblings met us there. I remember getting out of the car and the person leading me to where to sit because there were seats there. And I remember them popping the trunk and bringing out flowers. And the next thing I saw was this little bitty box. And in that box was my brother. And I remember thinking, we rode the whole time here with him in the trunk. And it wasn't that far from where we lived to the cemetery, but I mean, I'm a kid, so I'm processing this. So I sat there. I can't tell you, I don't even think there was like a preacher per se. I think the services were handled by the funeral home. There was a little bear in there with him. The funeral director handed me the bear. And I kept telling myself, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. And I made it all the way through. And my dad, I can't stress enough how great of a job he did. He had a suit and a tie on. This is a child that was 2 pounds. Actually, the smaller of the two survived. And that's who's living with me now. The casket was open. He looked extremely handsome. Never forget it. Never forget what he looked like. Still have a picture of all of that to this day because we had to take pictures because my mom couldn't be there. So went through the service. I didn't cry. I was detached, right? Because in my mind, I didn't know him. We didn't really get to know each other. And this is the thought process of a kid, right? Because I'm thinking in order to grieve, I have to know somebody for like a really long time. And then that hurts. Like to know somebody, I have to like know somebody to love somebody. So they closed the casket. I was okay. They had given me the bear. I was fine. And then they had to seal the pine box because he was in a casket, but you still had to have like a box at that time. And tears began to flow. It was a sob that, so I'm sorry, because this is not intentional to make you guys sad, but it is to help think about when did we first even learn what grieving felt like. And tears began to flow, and my aunt wrapped her arms around me. And I couldn't understand for the life of me. It took me a while to understand, why was I crying? Why was I so sad? I didn't know him. Like, I'd only seen him that one time. I didn't get to hold him. He was only 2 days old. Why did it hurt? Like, it took me a minute to even understand the concept of why it was crying. Why did it hurt? Why did I cry? It was then that I learned you can love people. You can love something. You can love some things, love someone, and have never met them, have never truly laid eyes on them, have never really spent a lot of time with them. But you have a genuine love for them. And then that love can be followed by grief. So what does grief look like in that situation? Well, I know that every time I look at Ivy, there's an Ivan. So every time that Ivy had a milestone, Ivan was supposed to have it too. Grief looks like I was 12 years old, but I am 40. I keep saying 43, y'all. I will be 43 this year. I'm 42. I forget my age though. And I still can take you directly to where he's buried. I know that it was Babyland. Dre said, little do we know how much we can grieve for those who we are not even close to. Yes, celebrities, strangers, or people who we just know their stories. I fully agree. Because even when I went to bury my mom and take care of her plot, I realized my brother didn't have a headstone. And I was like, how did we let that happen? Like, I didn't realize, I guess, the importance. I don't know. I didn't think about it. And so my goal is to go back and get him a headstone. But again, this is somebody I've only known for 2 days. But at the end of the day, that's my brother. And so that brings me forward to now, this day and time, and what we're going through. So I know what grief feels like. I grieved a celebrity, as Dre said. I'll never forget the day that Michael Jackson died, June 25th, 2009. I'll never forget where I was when Tupac died. I was at Church's Chicken. It was about 7 something in the evening here. And it was over the radio and had been praying for him, wanting him to pull through. And it came across the radio that Tupac Shakur is no longer with us. I remember when Aaliyah died, and it was a plane crash, because I sing, and these were people that I looked to. Left Eye, oh my God, when her vehicle went off the road, and for some reason I can still remember it being white, and I can remember the accident site of her going off the road, because I thought I was Left Eye. Like, I really should have went to audition to be the additional Left Eye after the Left Eye, because I was Left Eye. I remember that. And so what I've learned here in the last 5 years is grief is more than just about, oh my God, Dre said Uncle Bernie. Baby, y'all, when Uncle Bernie left here, I felt like I lost my uncle for real, like real deal, one of my uncles. When Robin Harris died, I felt like I lost one of my uncles. And it's amazing how you can get attached to these individuals that you've never met. When and not just in grief, even in joy. I think every Black person in the world, and I'm saying Black, but probably some white people too. We watched Bill Cosby in A Different World, and when Whitley and Dwayne broke up, we weren't happy about that. But when Dwayne went down that aisle and said, "Whitley, baby, no," but I don't know about y'all, but I hopped up, screamed, running through the house, even though Whitley mama said, "Die, just die." I was running through the house, super excited, like, yes, because we all knew that they were supposed to be together. Even though it was opposites attract, they were supposed to be together. And whether we know it or not, we kind of grieved when she was with, can't even remember his name, Byron. I think that's who she was with before Byron. She was supposed to marry him. And so all those emotions can be tied to grief. A lot of times when we think about grief, we think about the things that hurt, the moments that are sad. But grief is, Dre, you didn't have to do that one. That's a little low. That one. Hey, Sassy Ren. I'm still kind of tender about Kobe. And Dre said, and losing Kobe still got me hurt. I think we all still tender about Kobe, because with Kobe, this was a young man that, he made some mistakes, but he lived his life. Him and his that's You know, that's a yes, Dwayne Whitley. I was so happy that was yes. But even with grief, you have your sad periods. You know, they say there's these different stages, and I was very intentional not to go and Google and look that up because I didn't want to come across as a professional. Anytime that we have these topics is so that we can have dialogue, talk about it, and be our true selves with it. So for me, it's always my unprofessional opinion because I am not a professional. I can just tell you what my life experience have been, and why God chose me to go through so many different things. I don't know, but I choose to share them in the hopes that I can give you perspective, you can give me perspective, and we can all be better in this thing and moving forward. So in the last 5 years, I began to realize that grief isn't just about people. It's not just about somebody dies and then I'm sad, I'm hurt, I miss them. That's it. I have happy moments when I think about them sometimes, or having different moments. That's not just what grief is about. Grief can also be about things. Grief can be about the way we thought our life would be, the plans that we executed and followed and had in place. And then God had a different route for us. And that's not the route that we actually chose or the path that we chose, but it's the path that He's chosen for us. So we begin to grieve what we don't have, or what we thought was, while trying to figure out what is, if that makes sense. And looking at 2020, and that was the thing that kind of brought me to, okay, let's talk about grief. Today, I did not, I can't, still hadn't watched the video. I know I told you guys that I still hadn't watched the video. I want to, like, I really want to. I feel like I owe Mr. George Floyd that, but right now my stomach can't take it. I didn't watch his memorial service today because I kind of felt it brought back that I couldn't explain it, but just talking to you guys here, all I could say was it made me have a feeling in the pit of my stomach that I just can't, but that's that same feeling that I felt when I was 12 years old. And so I didn't know Mr. George. So what am I grieving? Am I grieving Mr. George? Am I grieving what happened to him? Am I grieving what America was before that happened to him? Am I grieving what America was before this pandemic, this virus came about? Am I grieving, the class of 2020 and the graduations that they're going to have? Am I grieving just not being this vibrant person that I used to be? And I know some of y'all are probably like, but you're vibrant. Well, if this is vibrant, put times 10 on it, and baby, that used to be me. So what I guess am I grieving? Sassy Ren said you can grieve the loss of friendship as people grow apart, and that is true. Like, friends can not have any issues whatsoever. It's just they can start out on this path and then God takes them different ways. Doesn't mean that they won't come back and meet. It just means that right now they're on two separate assignments, and maybe those assignments will come back together, but no love is lost. That I know for me, I have friends that I can talk to maybe once, twice a year, but when we talk, it's like we've never not talked. We are right back where we left off from. And so I just want to know, or not necessarily want to know, but when does it start? When does it end? I think about my mom and her being ill in the last year of her life. The last year of her life was hard. It was hard to watch because my mom is the strong fighter. nothing's gonna take her down. The one thing she said to me was, Isha, I don't want nobody to ever say that I gave up. And I told her, Mama, I promise you, they'll never say that. I'll write it on your tombstone, never gave up. And it's on her tombstone, literally. The funeral director said, do you want to put give up? No, ma'am. I told her never gave up. And that's what's on there. So anybody go view her, go to the cemetery to see her, it says never gave up. I knew what I wanted to say. And so, but because that year was so hard, I started grieving before she even left, because I knew the time was going to come where she wasn't going to be here. So I tried to do things for us to have memories. Like I knew on that Mother's Day of 2017 that was going to be my last Mother's Day with my mother. I knew for Thanksgiving that was going to be my last Thanksgiving with my mother. My husband took me out of town for my birthday because I think I turned 40 that year. I know I turned 40 that year, and he took me literally on a one-day trip. We went to Alabama, Birmingham, Papados, something I love to eat. And he tried his best to just take his wife out of elements of constant working, because I was doing 12 to 13 hours with my mom, sometimes 13, 14 hours with my mom, coming home, taking a shower, laying down, going right back the next day, getting my baby to school, doing it all over again, be at the hospital, home, whatever, with my mom. And so I didn't want to go, because I knew that was going to be my last birthday with my mother. But I went, and I'm thankful that he did get me out. But I was thinking, this is my last birthday with my mother. And so I started to grieve her before she was even gone, because I knew that there was going to come a time that she was going to be gone. And even with our children, we're so excited. I remember when they were so little and they worked my nerves. They were like, oh my God, I can't wait till y'all grow up. And then now they're grown up and it's like, oh my God, my children are growing up. And then the 24-year-old does something and it's like, Lord, I can't wait till she get married and get, so wealth of emotions, right? And so the stages of grief are the same way. They just kind of, you can be up, you can be down, you can be high, you can be low. But when does it start? When does it end? And something that I've come to believe, I don't know that it's 100% true. This is my unprofessional opinion. There is no right or wrong to grief. There is no, it starts at this time. And Coach, she loved you too. There is no, and I love you too. There is no, it starts at this time or it ends specifically at this time. There is no, I remember with my grandmother, like the last 7 days with her and how strong I was. I was there. I was with her. And I wasn't leaving her side. I remember that. And I remember her passing away. My grandmother lived to be 93, 94 years old. I didn't grieve when my grandmother passed away. I actually rejoiced and I thanked the Lord, because my grandmother's prayer, she knew that, because she was in her right mind, so she knew that she had a limited time. And she just said, thank you. Y'all have been good to me. Y'all have taken care of me. I couldn't have asked for anything better. She said, I just don't want to suffer. And I remember saying, Grandma, you won't suffer. I promise you, you won't suffer. And God honored that. Like, that was my prayer, that she didn't suffer. And I watched her take care of people all of her life. There was no stranger. There was no, no, you can't eat. There was no, that didn't happen. Like I watched her take care of people all her life. So I was like, God, she deserves it. She deserves to just be in peace. And he did that. He honored that. And so when she did pass away and she took her last breath and I was there, I got to hold her. I got to say the last words to her. I didn't cry. It was like, God, I thank you. Like I went into this big praise and I I remember I literally went into a big screaming, yelling, God, I thank you, God, I thank you. Like you're so amazing. You answered the prayer, God. She didn't suffer. She did, just remember all of that. Made it through going to the funeral home, made it through going to the viewing before the funeral to make sure everything's okay. Made it through saying, hey, I need y'all to fix this part of her hair. Can you do this? Made it through all of that. Made it through the funeral because again, God answered the prayer, right? So we get back to the home house, which is the house that you all saw in the intro video, where we had the well and the garden and all that. And we do what we do, cousins in the yard, uncles in the yard. I mean, you see the yard, so we always have a good time in the yard. And it was time to go. And I got in the car and my husband pulled off. And that's when the tears began to roll. And I cried the entire night. And I was like, I just don't get it. But that's grief. Grief comes when it want to come. Like some may say, well, you didn't cry when she was in that. Mm-mm. You didn't cry when, no. Mm-mm. It's just, it comes when it wants to come. Dre says no time limit. And AW says grief comes in waves. It's been over a decade, but I still grieve my mother, just not at the same intensity. And I don't think it ever ends. Like I look at my mom and my aunts, and like my grandmother lived to be, and I want to say 94. I could be wrong. But it was 93 if it was 94, but I really think it was 94. But yes, it was 94. And that's like, she got to see generations. She got to see children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. And I almost want to say a great. I'm not 100% sure. And so like that's generation. That's a blessing considering that the Bible tells us that it's 70. So it's what, 70 years. But I remember my mom and my aunts and them missing my grandmother. And so it's like, no matter how old you get, it's something about that relationship. Thank you, Dre. Dre said 94. It's something about that relationship that causes you to still hurt. So my grandmother's birthday. Now, I'm not a big birthday person, but she was. And it was understood that her birthday was fish. That's what we call fish day. And so to this day, on May 5th, when everybody else is celebrating Cinco de Mayo, we're having fish in honor of my grandmother. And so that's our way of remembering her. For my mom, my grandmother's first birthday that she wasn't here, that was harder for me than the funeral because birthdays were special to her. When my mom passed, the hardest part for me was not immediately after, because I was in this autopilot mode, I guess. Like I had to do the things that she told me to do. She had given me this checklist of everything that I needed to do. I had to make sure Ivy had all the things that he needed to do. I had to call this person and that person, and they were supposed to help me because these are the people that Mama put in place to help me get this particular paperwork filled out. And so it kept me going. So like the first year of my mom's passing, I just didn't have the opportunity to fully grieve her. And then last year we had a balloon release. And we had a balloon release for her birthday, her first birthday after she passed. It wasn't emotional. The second birthday, we had a balloon release at my grandparents' house, and we're outside in the yard, and they started to sing happy birthday, and the tears began to flow. And it's crazy that I can still, like, I can say this with a smile on my face, but it's almost like, even though I grieve the fleshly things, perhaps because I focus on the spiritual things, that's where my joy comes from. I don't know. Um, but I do know that there is no time limit. So my husband, without me telling too much of his story, I didn't understand what it was like to lose a parent because I hadn't lost one. And so he lost his father before he was an adult. He was an early teen. Um, and so I didn't understand his grief initially. It wasn't until I actually lost my mother, not even my grandmother. And my grandmother was kind of who I considered like mom. And me and my mom had like a sister relationship. But it wasn't until I actually lost my mother that I understood my husband's grief for his father. Because even though it was so many years ago, you grieve the milestones that they don't get to see. You graduating, you having children, you getting married, your children graduating. Um, you begin to wonder, like, I don't know if my husband actually ever had this thought, but I know I begin to think, am I gonna make it past 57? Because my mom was young, but she got to live a full life. Like, so hopefully I either start living real soon or God's going to give me a lot of time on earth to allow me to experience it a little more. But yeah, so it's like there's no set in stone. I know that there's these different stages. TR, it's okay though. I am who I am today. It's kind of like the song that Fantasia sings. I am who I am today. Um, Basically because God took my mistakes and used them for my good, something to that nature. And not just that, but even life and the things that happen in life. It's you have a choice to either allow it to break you or make you. And I don't have it in my blood to let anything break me. Like, I just don't. And my mom didn't. It's in my DNA. It's something that I tell our Dre said yes, and will I experience things with our sons that he and I didn't get to experience. And I saw that when our son, he just graduated, and his graduation hasn't happened yet because of the pandemic. And my husband is like uber excited, and I was like, okay, we pushed one kid out. Like, calm down. But I had to understand that his excitement is not just that we pushed one kid out, but he's getting to meet a milestone that he and his dad didn't get to meet. And so I get it. Like, and so I don't even want to I don't want to take from the moment. I want to add to the moment as best I can because I get it. But at the same time, there are moments when something will happen and I'll ask, where this come from, or looking at your children and you see a little bit of your parents and them, and a little bit of you too. And still all of that plays a part in grief. So does it stop? I say no. I'm not a professional though. That's my unprofessional opinion. I think it happens as long as we're here. When does it start? I think that's different for everybody, depending on the situation, depending what's going on. I believe we all are grieving parts of 2020. I remember, and that's probably why I'm also thankful for like the moments that I'm in, regardless. I remember the end of 2019 when people were like, oh my God, 2019, it's been the worst. Oh my Lord, I cannot wait to 2020 come in because 2019 has been horrible. Bye. 2019 don't owe me nothing. Bye, Felicia. Into 2020. And then 2020 came and it was like, pow, 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 pow. And it was, we couldn't duck and weave. That was 2020 for us. And so now you got people like, I'm over 2020, end it. Let's just go straight on to 2021. And it's like, no, we gotta learn. Even Dre said with 30 plus years, he still has his moments, and I believe it. I believe it. Um, Even with 2020 and all that it has brought, even with life and all that it has brought me, and these moments that could be moments that have me stuck in this place of life is what it is. It ain't gonna get no better. Woe is me. Um, I'm trying to think of other woe is me. Um, I don't have it in me to do that. I have it in me to move forward, and in moving forward, it requires um, a great deal of positivity. It requires a great deal of um, having moments where the glass is half full. And I've always been a half full person rather than a half empty type of person. Now don't get me wrong, y'all. I have days where it's hard to get out of bed. I have days when I feel like I'm just in a funk. Um, I have days where I don't know how I do it, or days where I question before the next day, how am I going to do it? I have those moments, and those moments are normal, but I don't allow those moments to take me out. And I think that's one of the things that we have to be careful about. So, the question for today is grief. When should it start and when should it end? And I gave my answer of it starts when it starts and it never ends. I'm going to put the link in the chat if someone would like to come up and speak with me. Also, are y'all ready for this? I have a number that you guys can call. So I will put that on the screen as well. And you can call in and tell me what you think about grief. When it starts, when should it start, and when should it end? Um, the contact number is 901-567-7575, or you can hit the link in the chat and it will bring you up here to talk with me. And I would love to hear your opinions and your thoughts. And see, I don't look at it as I've been through. I mean, I look at it as life. Like life happens. It just happens differently to some, or is it more to some than others? Um, it's just life. Yeah, I, I can't I can't complain. I can't ask for anything different out of life. I just have to trust that God knows what He's doing, and I believe He knows what He's doing, and that He's going to keep me covered and keep me in His presence, and that there's nothing that He'll put me through that He won't go through with me. But that's me. Somebody else may believe in something other than God. And on this platform, that's okay. This is a free, open space to be who you are, free of judgment, free of judgment, with yeah, with your own experiences. So I'm trying to see, make sure that I do have this on. I believe I do, though. Yeah, it's on. So again, 901-567-7575 if anyone would like to come calling in. Coach says, I got caught in the rain today riding, and it was the greatest thing for me. Had to ride 30 minutes back in the rain and smile the whole way. Felt like a kid again. Simple pleasures. Hi, thank you for calling. You're talking live with Aisha.
Hello, Aisha.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. So am I off here?
You said, are you off?
Yeah, because I'm listening to you on one end, but I'm hearing something different.
So you would have to mute your TV or the computer because there's gonna be a delay.
Okay, so let me do that. Oops, I paused it. Let me not do that. And then I'm going to mute. There we go. It's muted.
Okay. How are you?
I am well. How about yourself?
I'm good. No complaints. No complaints.
So yeah, I'm learning all of this, and I appreciate the fact that you allow me to learn as I go here.
We're all learning, I promise. If only y'all knew. We are all learning.
I don't know if I got the first part of it, but I do know that you were talking about grief.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the question was, when does it start and when does it end?
Mm-hmm. When should it start and when should it end? Hi, Modest Nation.
You know how I feel about shoulds.
Yes.
Because if it's a should, that means that you don't believe it anyway, whatever the it is.
Yes.
But that's really interesting because at some point in time, even at an early age, you're going to experience what we may call grief. And I think oftentimes we associate grief with something like a person's death as such, but you may have already said it that, grief comes from many forms because grief is not, it can be as simple as disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
And you grieve the disappointment of not having accomplished something or something having not been done that you wanted to be, or something that wasn't done that you wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so at an early age, you will experience sorrow and sadness and disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is still grief. That's a form of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes, we may call it complicated grief, but it's when the original or experiences have not been resolved to the point where you can move from the sadness and move from the disappointment. Mm-hmm. And move, from whatever other emotions you may be experiencing, and then you have another experience and another experience and another mm-hmm. experience. And by the time you get to one that we may deem as traumatic, whatever that might be, because traumatic has to do with what was traumatic for that individual. Losing a dog could be traumatic for a person,
right?
As losing your mother. Mm-hmm. Just depends on who that is and what a relationship you had with that, or whoever it was. And so it becomes complicated because your feelings don't know, where the target is. They're right. Just your feelings,
right?
And so the whole idea of losing is what begets grief. I've mm-hmm. lost something. Mm-hmm. You grieve on some level when you get a haircut. You grieve on some level, when you go into the next year. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I was looking at some of the remarks, and a lot of it I think has to do with losing a person. Mm-hmm. And so I think the thing is that we don't get to compare our losses.
No, can't compare suffering.
And we don't get to compare our grief. Mm-hmm. And so you said it starts when it starts and it never ends. I can say I agree with it starts when it starts. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then when it ends, that's, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the sorrow, the sadness, the resentment, the anger, the bitterness? Because all of that can be a part of grief.
Mm-hmm.
Are we talking about, having to, and all these emotions are unresolved. Mm-hmm. And so they keep going on and on and on. Mm-hmm. And so that's, I can say, if there's not some kind of healing, I wouldn't even use the word resolved anymore, because, in therapy, they may say, well, is it resolved? But I'm going to say healed. Mm-hmm. Because those emotions will come. They will come. Mm-hmm. But there needs to be healing around the experiences surrounding those emotions. Mm-hmm. And that can only be done in your head, in your thinking, because you can reconceive or reperceive mm-hmm. the situation that brought it on. Mm-hmm. And that takes a lot of work. That's why Iseashia says, do your work. You have to do your own work. Nobody can fix it for you. Nobody can make you really feel better. Mm-hmm. The healing comes from within, because the grief came from within.
Dre asks,
although they have been an external situation, the grief came from within.
Right. Dre said, does it only end for a moment, only to be triggered and returned?
It triggers itself because another circumstance has occurred. Now, if you are feeling or you're remembering perhaps all of those circumstances, nothing ever goes, listen to what you're saying. Nothing ever goes my way. Something is always happening. That may indicate there hasn't been healing and there hasn't been enough healing. And remember, you and I have talked about this, mm-hmm. healing, like everything else, comes in layers. Mm-hmm. And so, whereas, say I believe Dre lost his father, right? Mm-hmm. And there may be layers of grief, therefore layers of healing. Mm-hmm. And so, whereas you may have said, whatever this layer is, I dealt with that and I'm done with it. And you think you're done with the whole thing, and then something else happens.
A whole nother.
There's another layer.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
So you got a lot of questions.
It's not that clean.
AW says grief starts when you're ready and able to start healing. Until then, we're blocking out emotions just to get by, but we need to eventually feel them. Then she asks, what are some distractions you've seen people use to block out grief? And then Modest Nation said, Dre, that's what I want to know. How can you say it ends if you are still triggered? And Dre just said, powerful. So the two questions were, what are some distractions you've seen people use to block out grief? And then how can you say that it ends if it still triggers you?
And again, I would say that because an event is an event, mm-hmm. but how we process that event is, and I use the word layered. That's mm-hmm. how I'm using it, because we're not, as a human being, we are not just an event. How your brain works, all of this is the workings of the brain, mm-hmm. and how you process information and the areas of the brain that evoke, fear and all those other emotions and grief. And I want to really break grief down, because we use it as if it's one emotion. But grief in itself describes the description of an accumulation of emotions. Mm-hmm. Again, that includes anger. That includes hurt. That includes some pain. That includes bitterness, resentment, and all of that, sadness, all of that can come in layers. Mm-hmm. Again, depending on the age. So if I'm 9, which mm-hmm. I was, when my brother, 11 years old, passed away. Well, remember my developmental stage at that point. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to make sense out of it based on my developmental stage. Mm-hmm. And other experiences I've had, plus any other things that come into play, like how my parents explained it to me, or if they did explain it to me, if I had to make it all up, did I create, Mm-hmm. And so if I'm creating all of this, or if I'm based on my understanding, based on how I perceive things, I'm 9 years old, my developmental stage, what I concluded at that stage could carry me throughout my life. And that means that, well, I lost my brother, was an event, but how have I processed that throughout my life? That's what matters. And so you are going to be, there are things that will remind you of what has occurred. So every time, I've lost my brother, I've lost my brother, I've lost, my sister, I've lost my daddy, I lost my mama. So, all of those are going to remind me of the losses that I've had before through my emotions. So I'm still going to feel sad. But if I haven't healed from my 9-year-old experience, I'm going to feel it more deeply. I'm going to feel it more extensively. And that's when you know how much healing you've really done. I believe it's based on how deeply you feel it. Remember, your grandmother said that when that child died, she was in her 90s. She still remembered, but she said, quote, "It doesn't hurt as much as it did at the beginning."
I think somebody said that earlier in the chat. I think it was AW that said it. Grief comes in waves. It's been over a decade, but I still grieve my mother, just not at the same intensity.
There you go. Yeah.
As before.
That's the way it goes.
And so for me, that's kind of why I felt like grief isn't something that it's not like hopscotch, something we hop in, hop out, hop in, hop out, because you don't just grieve people. Like, you grieve things, you grieve life, the way you plan life, what you thought you would be doing in your 50s, 60s, or what you thought you would, like by 40, you thought you'd be almost ready for retirement or whatever, or finish with your doctorate, those things you can still grieve.
You can feel sadness. You can feel disappointment. You can feel, and all of that has to do with grief. And also understand, again, how you perceive something. Because some people will say, you know what? Yeah, I didn't get what I wanted. I'm at this age and I thought I would be further ahead. You know what? God has something better for me. How you process it? And I heard you say earlier that you tend to see the glass half full instead of half empty. Same thing. Both of them are correct. How you decide to make sense out of it will determine to what extent and intensity you will experience those emotions.
Definitely. But I will say, for me, and maybe I'm not, because again, I'm not a professional. I make sure I'm gonna start putting on a little banner or something that says my unprofessional opinion. If that thing is not going to ever come into fruition, then even I can grieve it and not be sad about it. Does that make sense? The only way I can explain it to you is Desi. That was not, having a child with developmental disabilities was not what I thought would happen. It's what happened. And so I don't know the path or the milestones like you kind of do with each child, but I'm prepared for whatever they may be. But I still grieve, and I think that's the right word to use, the fact that she may not be on the at the regular milestone of an 8-year-old, or hearing a clear mama, or some of the things that I remember her sister doing at 8, like, because it hasn't come into fruition yet. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, and what it does, it speaks to how we again process it. Depending on what you're saying, it's going to determine what you feel. So And I'm not making a judgment on what's right or what's wrong, but just understanding how the human brain works. What you say is going to determine how you feel, and how you feel will determine what you do. So the emotions, when I said feel, I'm talking about the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So if, for example, you say Desi is not on, or she may not be on the, I think you said developmental stage, as her sister. You remember when her sister was a certain age, like Desi, and there's a difference. And so you may feel differently based on what you've said.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good, bad, or indifferent. It just is. That's the way our brains work.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't, if you don't feel sad, you don't feel sad. But you said you feel grief. So then that would say to me, how do you define grief?
As a loss.
As a loss.
As a loss, but all losses, kind of like you said, somebody would say, well, that's not the path God had for me. You know, it's still a loss, but.
Well, it's a loss. It's a loss based on what you say it is. If you tell me, if you say something differently, and I tell you, well, it's a loss, you have to define what it is, not somebody else. And that's what makes you feel what you feel.
Okay. Because pain doesn't come with it. It's just like, it's not what I thought it would be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not what you thought it would be. Okay.
But yeah.
When we have all of these feelings that we are feelings, and I'm saying emotions that we have, there are different ways in which we deal with it. The best way to deal with these emotions that are sometimes distressing is that someone says, first of all, you got to feel it, and then you have to acknowledge it. You have to acknowledge it. Because that says, here I am. I'm here, and I want you to acknowledge me. Anger says, here I am, and I'm here, and I want you to acknowledge me. I didn't get what I thought I was going to get. And so sometimes we don't do that, and what happens is that those emotions get suppressed, right? But they get acted out because they are going to be acknowledged. Now, you can do it now, or you can do it 50 years from here, but you are going to do it because they will not shut up.
Yeah. So,
and so, it may be drinking, drugging. It could be a number of things to try to suppress them. You can get them down all you want to, but you keep living. They're going to rear their heads and say, you didn't acknowledge me when your brother died. You didn't acknowledge me when he died, and I was there. And now, 25 years, 30 years, 40 years down the road, how come she's so angry? How come she's always upset about something? And now grief becomes complicated because you've had 40 years worth of experiences to tack on to that.
Yeah. Dre says, I think we have to be okay with hurting or being sad as long as we are growing from the original place of hurt, sorrow, or grief. Then, hi, Pretty Saucy. Coach says, my wife still becomes sad some days on the loss of her mom. Could that be her just being sad on her mom not being here, or still grieving, or one and the same? My unprofessional opinion is kind of one and the same. How do you tell the wheat from the tare in grief and sad when it's a physical person that's gone?
I do see them as, again, how we use these terms. Grief is a set of emotions based, that's related to that loss. And so, feeling sad is a human experience, emotional experience. And when you've lost something, you're going to feel sad. And I tell you, when I say loss, again, I'm generalizing that. I've gone from let me say my child. My child has gone from home to kindergarten or preschool. I don't know if anyone else has have kids that young and have gone to preschool and had the experience of crying because they are now out of the house into school.
Yes, well, nobody prepared me for that. Yes, nobody prepared me for that. When I dropped my baby off at college, I didn't know what that feeling was. I held it strong, and when we got in that car after we got her room set up, I boo-hooed for the entire weekend, locked myself in my room. I was like, why didn't nobody tell me that this was going to feel like this all my life? I mean, all her life, rather. I thought that was supposed to be a joyous occasion, lots of smiling pictures, and no, it was like, I'm leaving my baby. Who gonna watch after her? Who's gonna take care of her? She's gonna need me. Yeah.
All of that started to come. All those feelings started to come up, and so this is a brain experience. Is that now there's a there is a disconnect. You're disconnecting, and in death, there is a disconnecting that's going on, and the brain doesn't like that.
Yeah.
We like patterns. And that person has been with us, or we wanted that person to be with us.
Yeah.
And now that person is disconnecting from us, then that region of the brain that processes emotions and pain is kind of there together, and that's why we feel pain when we feel grief.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though some grief, as you said, is here she's going off, she's moving forward as she's supposed to, right? And yet you have this experience of great loss.
Mm-hmm. And she's on the bed smiling, kicking her legs like.
Yeah. And so it's I really want to emphasize that how the brain works, how the human brain works, and we like patterns. And so when there's a disconnect and feeling sad when I remember my loss, then that is a very human experience. In fact, I believe there's been studies done that there are other animals who do the same thing.
I believe that. I've seen that.
There's been studies on elephants, studies on monkeys. Yeah,
they do the
same. So,
I've even seen it with dogs, like how when President Bush died and his dog laid at his casket, or there's videos where a dog will lay at the owner's cemetery plot. So wow.
But I would say, when we remember our loved ones, or when we remember the loss, I think someone said it in the chat, feel it. Because there's something that's happening there. That is another layer for healing. You have an opportunity to heal another layer. When you heal, you have the opportunity to be more of yourself, or more who you are, and to be free. There's a lot of freedom in healing.
Yes, God. Now that is true.
And so when that sadness comes, I don't care how many years it is down the road, something external now could have triggered that. So thank God, another layer of healing and another opportunity to experience another layer of freedom that I had not previously until this came up.
So
hallelujah.
Good example. Let me say this first. Hi, Florence. Thank you for coming in. Probably pretty saucy. Let me go back real quick. AW said stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, sadness, and acceptance. They don't go in sequence and can cycle in and out of life in life. Which that's scary, because I don't recall anger. I don't recall anger, which makes me wonder if I misdirect anger in other areas, which like advocacy or standing up for people. Is that how I deal with that? And then Florence, thank you so much for connecting. Somebody said Dre said we can hang our hat on that point of a disconnect. that there's a disconnect. So what I was thinking layer wise was, and I guess I would have to ask Dre that, but so making it so like with Deuce graduating and having him and you being here to see that, does that help with the grief of your father? He said, "Oh, I do, Isha." Oh, okay. He says he get it. AW said, yes, it is so important to acknowledge our emotions. If not, our body will do it for us. Psychosymptomatic symptoms. Psychosomatic symptom. Now I don't even know what that is. Now I told y'all I don't have I don't know what that is.
You've heard of women who think they're pregnant and that they have all the symptoms of pregnancy, but there's no baby.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's very close. Psychosomatic is that you got all these. You keep talking about how you're feeling and that these, you got you're in pain, but nobody can find anything. They've done all the tests.
Mm-hmm.
They can't find nothing on you physically.
Okay.
The pain is showing up in your body.
Wow.
And you talked about anger. That you didn't experience that. And let me just say this: I think there is a validity to the fact that you may act it out in other ways, just because you haven't, you haven't felt it in the way that you traditionally, or that you have maybe seen others do it. But some people won't feel it. They act it out. Or some people say they don't feel certain things because, number one, they cannot. Again, it depends on your experiences, your, developmental stage, and how you've processed these things in your life.
Wow.
Anger is one of those that many people tend to not feel or deny they feel because of the experiences they've had. If you've been slapped around a whole bunch of times and you learn to not feel, then anger is probably the number one emotion that people will deny.
Yeah.
And yet someone will look at you and say, "Boy, are you mad?"
Well,
you never make the connection to it.
Yeah.
But you look mad. But you say, "No, I'm fine."
Yeah. Or how my husband says my passion comes across sometimes is angry. AW says it's possible to skip a grief stage altogether. And Dre said it's a feeling of accomplishment and not leaving him hanging. And that's what I kind of felt when Aunt Panita said there's layers. And it just kind of made me think, okay, so you've made it to this point. So his grief may be a little bit different. Yeah. One of the Terry Taylor says the caller is very smart. I can relate, and she explains it well. Yes, she does.
Well, thank you. This is. I'm not on here as a professional, but I do have a background.
Yeah. Not to mention, you've always been you've always thought things through. Like, I can't even explain it, but like, you really always thought things through. Just one of the things that I love and help somebody think. You always know how to make people think for themselves without really saying think for yourself. And then it's like, she just made me think for myself. Even when we were little. So hi, Nails by Nicole. Thank you for coming. I think this has been fruitful. I still kind of stand with it starts when it starts, and I don't know that it truly ever ends. But I think I definitely agree with the whole layers. That has just added a whole new perspective. Modest Nation, what do you think about layers? Yeah, they just added a whole new perspective. Coach says, Drew didn't show anger. because her mom was so sick the last year of her life, it was like relief and thanking God for answering her prayers.
And sometimes we experience these things when sometimes when a person is ill, your loved one is ill, you at some point you already have started the grief process before.
Yes. That we talked about. Well, we didn't talk about that, but I talked about that earlier. Like how I truthfully started grieving my mom before she passed away. Because I knew she was gonna pass away. So like that Mother's Day, she didn't pass away till December, but I knew May was my last Mother's Day. I knew, Thanksgiving was our last Thanksgiving. I knew my birthday was my last birthday, to have even made it to my birthday. So it was like I started grieving before she left because I knew that there was going to be a time that she wasn't going to be here. Though it was different, different with grandma.
What were you feeling?
For me, I think.
Did you identify your emotions?
I was sad, hurt, a little angry because she was young. 57 is young, and so I felt like she deserved more time. I didn't expect to have to take on Ivy. Like I always knew that if anything happened to Mom, that I would have to take on Ivy, but I didn't expect to have to take on Ivy so early in life. And then I didn't know that I would have Ivy and Desi. And so trying to figure that, like I still say, and it hasn't even, we're going on the 3rd year in December. I have to figure out what this new life is like. And to somebody else, it may be like, you going on 3 years, girl, your life is not new, but this is really still new. Like, I don't know. I don't have it figured out. We don't have a schedule. I don't even know what it's supposed to look like. Like, there's no book on this. None of that. So, yeah.
Well, I heard 2 emotions. I heard you say you felt sad and a little angry. I heard 2 emotions.
Sad and a little
angry. Yeah. So that's something to think about when you take in consideration all the things that you said. She's young. I didn't, I knew I was going to take Ivy, but I didn't expect, so soon. All of these things that you say determine how you feel. But I only heard 2 emotions in reference to her, to your mom leaving, dying, death. Only 2 emotions. So, they're all there. I think, is it Dre who said big anger?
He said big angry.
Yeah, you said a little angry.
Oh, and he said big. Was I big angry, Dre? Oh God. Was I really big angry?
We only, we tend to see ourselves from the inside.
Yeah.
Everybody else sees us from the outside.
And he has it in all caps, big angry. It is okay, y'all. I promise you I'm okay. No need to apologize. It's life. It happens. Midas Nation says, I don't know. Honestly, I'm just at the point of accepting I need to grieve. I've had everything bottled up for years. Maybe that's why it hurts so much for me now. And that's possible.
That's really interesting. Yes, because look at what's going on around you.
Yeah.
Look what's going on around us. Today I cried.
Yeah.
Today I felt so sad. Look what's going on around us. There's so much grief. There's so much loss.
Yes.
Even though it may not personally be mine, but it is.
But it is. We're
all connected humanly. The humanity is connected to humanity.
Yes.
You cannot know what's going on in the world or what's around you and not have some, emotional response to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Dre said, oh yes. Midas Nation said, I'm big angry. and I can understand that, and it's amazing. And because our topic this morning, well, on her platform. If you guys aren't following Modest Nation, please do. But the topic this morning was basically about if your parent got sick, would you put them in a nursing home or try to keep them? And somehow we end up talking about what do you call it? Father abandonment, like type issues. And I guess I didn't even think about that. We were so stuck on forgiving this morning and talking about forgiving that we didn't talk about that could be something that you it's okay to grieve not having a dad or your dad moving on with his life. Or yeah, I didn't think about it like that.
It's okay to grieve any loss, and please everybody know that it is okay to be human and to feel what you feel. There is no judgment to what you feel. We tend to judge people on what they do with those feelings, and that's not even helpful.
Yeah.
But to feel what you feel is what you feel. And if you feel off, if you feel angry, if you feel sad, if you feel intense sadness, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And when you do feel those feelings, you will feel better.
Yeah.
Because it is only through feeling those feelings that you can forgive. You know, we want to just don't we just want to jump over it? I don't really want to feel angry because God.
Yeah, like
I don't want to feel this because God. Well,
yes.
I don't know. God made you this way, and if you don't express it, on a conscious level, it's coming up in a different way that is not God. Okay, it's probably coming up in a way that's not God. So feel your anger and your rage, and feel it, and sit there in it, and then you get to cry and release it, and you get to, hit whatever, not somebody, but you get to hit your pillow and release that energy, or you go for a walk, or you go for a run and release that energy. And again, it's okay, I got this layer done, or I got this piece for right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can move to my next moment. And I can move in a little bit more freedom, and I can move in a little bit more peace, and I can move into a little bit more forgiveness, and I can move from a little bit more healing.
Yeah.
Because that's really what we all need and what we're seeking. We're seeking healing, 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 healing.
Yeah.
And the outcome of that is just, what we've been promised. We actually get to experience it. And that's the healing I've been talking about, and the freedom.
Modest Nation said, it's hard to be grieving someone is alive. Why can't you just be there? You're not dead. I'm just angry because you have the choice to be there and you choose not to. But I guess you can't control. It's still all about how you process it.
Well, depending on the relationship and the relations to that person, say there's a child and a father.
It's a daughter and a father.
A daughter and a father.
Mm-hmm.
Well, or daughter and father. So the daughter is, she has a right. It's still, a child is a child, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you have a mother who's watching her child experience this grief and this anger.
Now I know about that. Yeah.
Yes. And so depending on the relationship, and if they're still there, and then, this again is a great opportunity in our humanness to experience forgiveness in a way that is different than if the person has died. Because the forgiveness is not particularly for that person, remember. Forgiveness is for you. It's to free you. Because without forgiveness, then you hold on to the anger, you hold on to the resentment, you hold on to the bitterness, and it grows, and it grows,
mm-hmm.
and it produces fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, and then the psychosomatic complaints actually become real issues, high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer. Don't ever think that these issues and these underlying emotions that are just stuck and the energy from those emotions are not creating these diseases.
Yes.
Cancer is a big one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Modest Nation said, so am I to grieve my dad that's alive? It's not grieving her dad, it's grieving the relationship? Or is it
the loss of the relationship? Exactly. The loss of the relationship that any child would want with their father or with their parent. Absolutely. And then, you know, and this is a good opportunity to like journal. It's a good opportunity to write these things down, and you don't even have to keep them. You can journal it out and say all those nasty things that you probably wouldn't say to a real person, and then tear it up.
Yeah.
Because it really is about, because once, as you do that, go through that process for yourself, you're healing, but as you go through that process for yourself, it also clears out the stuff so that you can see things in a different way. And you may be able to respond in a different way. And come to not just accept, no, this is just the way he is, but I think it goes farther than that. But we've got to learn how to process our emotions, not just someone, you know, particularly being there, but having tools to use. And journaling is a tool to help you process what's going on the inside of you.
But what if you don't have the words to even articulate what's... I know for me, that's what I struggle with. I don't typically have...
You don't have to have words. You don't have to have words.
But you got to write something down.
You can scribble down whatever comes. You can draw. You don't even have to draw. It may not look like drawing, but I would almost guarantee you it will express your emotion. And it's even it's been proven, or at least there, you know, some research, I believe, that it said that if you do it with your non-dominant hand, in other words, if you're right-handed, then you use your left hand and vice versa, that it becomes even more potent, you know, to do that. Yeah.
Wow.
And those are things that, and I'm saying these are tools to use.
Yeah.
We need an arsenal.
Yes.
To deal with our emotions, to deal with our circumstances in life.
Yes.
And Asia, this is ongoing. Dealing with your circumstances in life and coping and, you know, resolving and how we process that is ongoing. That is ongoing. So we're all in for a great ride as human beings.
Yeah, I see that. AW said yes, and we need to let our men and boys know that women and girls aren't the only ones that should grieve, especially our Black men and boys.
It is absolutely necessary for us to see each other as human beings first.
Yes.
Gender is not as much of an issue. It is how we're socialized.
Yeah.
Depending on what society you're in, we may be talking vice versa. Well, women need to know that they can grieve too.
Right, because we were... And when I was sharing about Ivan, I don't know if you were in just when him passing, and the thing that now, and you're even on the phone, so that brings back that was my first time even getting a letter in the mail, and that was a card that you sent me, but I remember it, like, and I remember saying, I'm not gonna cry, and then all of a sudden these tears came from everywhere, and it's like he was only here 2 days. I didn't really know how do I love him like that? How am I crying? And like having to process that at 12, because I really don't know why I feel what I feel, because he was in my mama's stomach, but he wasn't really here on earth. But then that helps me understand the grieving process of like you talked about with grandmama, with women who are pregnant or who miscarry, or grieving the fact that they can't get pregnant, or just
exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I don't know if we got any answers, but definitely got some tools to use. Journaling and drawing and trying to draw with our non dominant hand and learning that there are layers, and each time we feel something, we're pulling back a layer. So just feel it. Don't stop trying to feel it. Just feel. So
And
let me
know that
ask
the
this
answers,
question.
well, let me say this. Know that the answers, whatever your questions are, the answers lie within you.
Okay. Did y'all hear that? She said, know that whatever the question, the answer lies in you. And that was about, you answered the question I was going to ask without answering. I mean, without me asking, because I was about to say, do you even depend on the other person if, like in this case, we're talking about grieving a relationship, a parental relationship. Do you try to force them, or do you expect anything from them, or is it still okay to expect, or do you have to get past the point of expecting because you can't control the person? Does that make sense?
Yeah, because if you expect something, then there's a possibility you're going to be disappointed. And so if you have no expectations, then you can forego the disappointment. I think, once again, we're human, and that it's okay to have expectations, understanding that the person, that if you convey what your expectations are and the person chooses not to, then you understand that's his choice. But if you expect someone to do something, even daddy, and you have not conveyed the expectation, and a child can't do that. So I want to keep it in perspective. But as an adult, if you have expectations of someone and you haven't conveyed those expectations, then you can expect them to respond to expectations that you haven't conveyed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if this is adult to adult, to talk to your father, and he's, you know, he has a different opinion, or he has a different perspective, then I accept him. I accept him as he is, but I don't have to agree with him. I can accept him as he is, and I can still feel disappointed. I can accept him as he is, and he's still my father.
Mm-hmm.
I can accept him as he is, and we only see each other 3 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me to be able to accept him, I got to accept everything about me.
Ah!
So that goes back to I have work to do on me too, and I can't, you know, the work begins and ends with me. Mm-hmm. How I perceive and how I engage with my adult father has to do with me. I get to choose as an adult how I'm going to engage with him. A child doesn't have that kind of leverage. Mm. And hopefully an adult is in that child's life to help that child navigate. Yeah. That child always needs someone to put their arms around her, and to listen, and to hold her hand, and to let her cry, and to cry with her, and to just, that child developmentally, think about developmental stages. You don't take a 4-year-old and give them a dissertation, right? Mm-hmm. A 16-year-old may be in a different developmental stage, and by now they're pretty pissed off. Yeah. Along with all the other stuff they have to deal with just being 16 years old. Yeah. Or now you're 27, and he hadn't been there since you were 4, and he didn't show up. Well, know that you may not be dealing with the 27-year-old in that area. You're dealing with the 4-year-old emotionally, and that's okay if we recognize that there's a 4-year-old in me, there's a 5-year-old in me, there's an every age in me, because when I say I'm ageless, I know people laugh, Isha, but all your experiences don't particularly have an age to them. They continue to stay there until you heal from the trauma or from the experience of some of these events that occurred. Daddy not being there, we just use that as an example. That follows you all throughout your life. And then depending on girl or boy, the experiences may be different. Depending on how you socialize, there are a lot of factors known and unknown that determine how you end up with this situation, where you are in your life right now. But know that where you are is not where you have to stay. Please know that. Where you are is not where you have to stay or where you will be tomorrow or continue in your future.
Yeah.
There is always healing. And it always starts within you how you think about these things.
Yeah.
But no, it doesn't have to all happen at one time.
Yes. Starts and ends with you. Well.
And it starts with honest with yourself.
Yeah.
I'm pissed off at my daddy. I'm 50 years old.
Yeah.
Because he and it's not the 50-year-old who's pissed off, it's the 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Who didn't have a voice. So when you talk about, well, what if I don't have the words? A 4-year-old may not have the words, a 6-year-old may not have the words. But she can sure punch a piece of paper, she can sure draw, she can sure just kind of let that hand go any way it wants to go. And it will tell a story to the how old are you, 42 plus year old.
Yeah, I have to keep thinking. I keep saying 42.
Because now the 42-year-old has to process what the 6-year-old could not.
Oh my God.
So there is hope, and there is healing.
Yeah.
There is healing.
Yes.
It doesn't change the past. It doesn't change the event, but it certainly change how you experience the event. Get that?
Yes.
Event that happened long ago doesn't have to continue to be experienced as it is today.
Yeah.
It can change.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Whew. Yeah, on that note, Dre said Pratt is bringing the house down and giving us the tool to build up a brand new one. Yes.
That is awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what we want.
Because I'm like, the question, the answer to the question is it starts and ends with you, period. So where we were looking about time frames and it starts and ends with you. Yes. Somebody said amen, caller. You got a couple of caller, I feel you. One thing that Dre did say, but in having expectations can bring on more grief and disappointment, and that's true. And so I think that's a part of you when you I think you stated when you have an expectation of that person, you have to also look at you.
When you have an expectation of that person, you have to convey to that person those expectations. But and to understand that for me to accept that person, I must accept myself first.
Okay, to accept that person.
And fully. Yeah, if I to accept my daddy in all the mess, in all the disappointment that I felt, to accept him in his decision making. To accept him as he is. I may not agree with his decisions, but I accept him. But for me to accept him, I must accept myself.
Yes. AW
because
says,
what happens is that we
completely.
say, well, I don't like him. And he, I hate him. I hate him. Yeah, you can say that. Because a 6-year-old will say, I hate him. A 16-year-old will say, I hate him. And a 40-year-old would say, I know I'm not supposed to. I still feel that.
Okay. That's changing the topic now because I feel guilty. Like, I think it was TR that said, "Wow, you've been through a lot," and I'm like, "Well, not. It's just life. Like this, how I've been able to." Or like somebody said, "You're so strong." No, I'm just living. Like it's just life. It could be worse. You know, truthfully, my baby came out and she wasn't breathing. I had to have the old school C-section. So if this is what I have, God, I'm thankful for what I have because she could not be here. Like I don't, and I don't. So I don't know if I've allowed that to become a coping mechanism for me, or I don't know if it's healthy or not anymore. I'm beginning to question that now. Hmm.
The 40-year-old will feel guilty, but the 6-year-old will not. And you must address the 6-year-old, the 7-year-old, the 16-year-old, the 21-year-old. You must address those areas or those parts of you that don't have that. And I'm going to say it this way: don't let your adult continue to do to the 6-year-old in you what Daddy did.
Oh Jesus.
Give those parts of you the opportunity to express themselves, because by the time you were able to express yourself, guilt had a hold on you.
Mm.
So when you say, "I know I'm not supposed to," there's a part of you that needs, there's a part of you that says, "But I do."
Yeah.
And that part needs attention.
Yeah.
Because you've never given that attention. And that, fortunately or unfortunately, that part who needs attention now must come from you, the adult.
Yeah.
Because Daddy and Mommy are not there now.
Mm. Yeah. Well, Pen Pratt, we definitely thank you for coming to talk with me on live. From based on the comments, you have helped quite a few people tonight and given us some tools to take forward to work on healing. I feel freer than I did before I started this live, which is kind of weird. Because I knew we were going to talk about grief, but I guess because I'm walking away with some stuff like that I need to deal with. And it's okay. Like I'm not mad about it. I'm kind of glad about it because it's like let's deal with it. Especially seeing Big angry in all caps. It kind of lets me know. I will tell you that I have certain days where I literally say out loud, "Mom, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I did not know you had all this on you. I did not know," because it's a lot. Like it's a lot. And so I found myself apologizing to her a lot because I just did not know that she had so much on her, but she didn't make it look like it was a lot. But then again, if I look back on it, she showed it in other ways. So, and I don't want to do that. So yeah, I guess I'm going to get my pen and paper and start with my left hand because I don't have the words to articulate. And see what my left hand does.
What it tells you, what story it tells you.
Yeah.
And be very compassionate. Remember, this is the voice. This is the part of you that didn't have a voice. And now you're allowing that part of you to have a voice.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
I can do that. Thank you so much for calling in and giving us some Great advice. Somebody said, "Can we please have the caller?" What did they say? Can we please have the caller? I'm sorry, but I love the caller. Please have back. Please invite back. Yeah. Um, AW said, Dre, and we love you through Isha. Big mad or not. Yes. Terry, thank you so much. Dre answered the question. Oh, she said she sees great potential. Thank you so much. I kind of figured that this was kind of gonna happen. Good night, Pretty Saucy. Thank you for coming by. This way, like I would start having these conversations on the guise of being helpful and then coming out free, and that's kind of how it's been every time, every time, every time. I sure thank you. Can't thank you enough. Love you a lot.
Well, you're welcome. And you know that I'm sending love.
Yes.
Sending love. I'm sending love to everyone, honestly. I'm sending love.
She's sending love to everyone. Pretty Saucy said, I learned something today. And me too. I think we all did. I think we all did. Yeah. Oh, right. Coach said Drew and I enjoyed tonight as usual. Thank you. Thank you, Coach. And thank you, Drew. Yeah. Yes, thank you so much. I love you and just thank all of you for pushing me. Because yeah, I think 8 people are walking away free tonight. So, well, Drew, including Drew, 9. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. So I love you. Have a good night. We'll talk again tomorrow for sure.
All right. Sure. All right. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Bye now.
Okay, bye. Well, guys, I don't know about y'all, but I feel like a whole lot lighter, and there's not really much. Hi, Marie. Sorry. Please go back and watch the live. It was actually great tonight. I am walking away lighter. I pray that you all are as well, even with all this going on in the world. I pray that we take the tools that were given tonight as far as writing it down, knowing that the answer to the questions is it starts and ends with us. And so nobody can tell you how to grieve. Only you know the answer to what your grief should be like. So yeah, I'm going to try to figure out something lighter for Saturday. We've had some real heavy conversations since I started. But again, this is supposed to be the free space for the uncomfortable conversations that are necessary. So yeah, thank y'all for supporting me. I pray that it's worth it, Terry. It is worth it. Like, yeah, it's worth it. Dre is not, he does not have a channel. However, feel free to dance. He can definitely subscribe. Not that I'm giving him permission to subscribe. I'm just letting you know. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I love you guys. I thank you for coming in. I don't know about you, but I got a lot to go and process. Coach, I may need to go to the range a little sooner now than later. And let's see, because apparently I'm angry and I didn't know it. Or went through a period of anger and didn't know it. But yeah. I just thank Dre for even putting that out. That was hilarious. So yeah, go ahead. We've had a long week, a long month, we're still trying to process everything for 2020. Coach said he'll see me at the after party. Of course, I will upload an after show trying to summarize everything. I don't even know if I really can. I may see if my husband can do it for me. Because this is a lot. It was like, but I'm thankful for it. So yeah, I'm sending lots of love your way, lots of peace your way, praying for joy to come your way. And I pray that Alicia, no, she has surpassed me. When that girl was 12, I knew that she was going to outsing me. She said you could do a mother-daughter versus with T Amber and sing on Saturday. Yeah, I would just let her have the whole platform. She could tell me what notes she wants me to sing in the background because her voice is like, ugh, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. We're gonna do something fun though. I'm gonna research something fun for us to do. I may even get a guest host to come in and give us something fun to do and throw out some cash out prizes or something. Well, I'm gonna run about my husband first though before I say that. Do want to remember the business of the week. I Am Journey Designs. It is a teen ran business. Right now with COVID going on, we are masking up. And they have all styles. This young lady is going to the 9th grade, but she is sewing and has been sewing for the last 2-3 years. Started making clothes for her dolls. So yeah, mask up. I Am Journey Designs. We will do a drawing on Saturday, and someone will actually win a free mask that we will get to you. I thank y'all for joining me tonight. Y'all, I love y'all. I truly, truly bless God for all of you all. Have an amazing night. Yeah. Peace, love. Good night.